You're listening to Music Tectonics.
Welcome back to Music Tectonics, where we go beneath the surface of music and tech. I'm your host, Dmitri Vietze. I'm also the CEO and founder of Rock, Paper, Scissors, a PR firm that specializes in music tech and music innovation. And we have a returning guest. It's been a little while. It might have been an entire pandemic or close to it. Super excited to have back on the show Fabrice Sergent, the managing partner of Bandsintown, the ubiquitous concert discovery, artist engagement with fan platform. Welcome to the show, Fabrice.
Hi, Dmitri. I'm so happy to be back.
Me too. And I'm glad we're at the tail end of whatever just happened over the last couple of years. But I have to say, Bandsintown was one of the fastest adapters to COVID and its impact on live music. I mean, we were working together on some stuff at the time, and I was like, I couldn't believe how quickly you made some adjustments and leaned in and engaged with what were the possibilities in a moment when everyone else was still like, where are we? What's happening? Tell us about your path during the pandemic. Things you tried, things that worked for the moment, but maybe are now passé. You tried it out, it worked or it didn't, whatever. And things that worked and changed how you operate forevermore.
Well, what worked is that we moved fast indeed. And it was... we were moved by the fear that we had for the artist. As you know, artists make about 80% of their revenue on tour. No tour meant no revenue, no creative contact with the fans. And so a very hard period, dark period that was coming up. So on March 10th, we decided to launch take a few initiatives to pioneer live stream. On March 25th, we announced a big initiative on Twitch, launching our own Twitch channel. And we also opened our platforms to list live streams to help artists stay in touch with their fans. It really worked. It worked for the artists first, because I think a lot of them discovered a new creative territory. They stayed in touch with their fans, and they generated some revenues by collecting donations and stuff. It worked for us because we were able to stay relevant for our fans. We promoted over 100,000 live streams, and we produced ourselves 1,400 shows during that pandemic, at the time when obviously artists were not offered to jump on stage too often. Most of the time when they were live streaming on Bandsintown Live and then Bandsintown Plus, our subscription channel, it was the first time that they had the chance to go back on stage and to play. So it's also created a very strong bond with these teams, with the management. But we stayed relevant to our fans as well. Our fans got entertained, and we didn't lose any engagement. So we could have lost 100% of our traffic, 100% of fans may have deleted the app. None of that happened, quite the opposite, actually. So that was another big achievement, and that really worked.
Wow. And so are there things that you picked up on during that moment in time when we were all isolated that continue into now?
Oh, yes. So as a team, for example, I want to mention that because this has been an incredible human adventure. First and foremost, you can think of the morale of the team and the perception of the market when this all happened about Bandsintown. We were privileged to have built a company that is very robust and has a diversified business model, which actually helped us transition through this period of time. But still, the morale was as a company, we've been very challenged. So the first thing we did was to start getting all together every Friday on Zoom. Because obviously we're not the only ones, but we tried to not only share our concerns, celebrate birthday, sometimes do dance party on Zoom. It sounds weird, but that was still the case. And most importantly, we also got guests, artists, managers, industry players, which came and joined us in this journey, and showed, and we all shared, and we all felt that we were all, equal in confronting this terrible situation, which greatly helped not only improve the understanding of the team, about the market, its dynamic, its players and stuff, which I find super important. Anybody can contribute within a team, but also it helped, a better forecast the way the industry will grow and hopefully expand beyond the pandemic. So that as a team, we still continue on a monthly basis to hold these town halls. Last week we had a guest from Netherlands actually as a promoter, and we continue to grow as a group all together. We also obviously pioneered and pushed very, very hard to promote live streams. I know this obviously, if at the level of interest diminished at the level of the fans greatly. I mean, let's face it, the number of people watching live stream today is much lower than during the pandemic. But what it helped crack is the code to entertain fans online, which was really not the case before the pandemic. Frankly, you would have never got me watching a live stream before the pandemic. So, and not only me, but we got 85% of our fans watching at least one live stream per month, and saying that they loved it. So for that reason, I think it's so we kept our own live stream platform. We developed it, we kept it, and now we are live streaming shows to promote emerging artists through our Big Bag program.
Great. That's cool. I mean, it's really interesting to hear about how you tied the experience we're all going through with your team for team development and support. The guest thing is super interesting because it's the kind of thing that you traditionally one might not have thought to do. Like, let's bring in guests into the office as often necessarily. It would take like a special event, but the removing the friction of somebody actually having to come into the office alone, it's kind of lined up with this idea that everyone was physically isolated, and so emotionally, mentally, culturally, they're isolated. To bring in, you could, as some great business books say, go out and walk the factory floor, or go out to the retailer market and see it, touch it, look at the end caps, all that kind of stuff. You couldn't do that, and so all of a sudden, you have this opportunity, the removed friction of live stream, Zoom collaboration type thing, along with an increased need for it. And then as a result, you experience it and understand something about the live stream experience for your concerts and artists too.
Yes. In fact, what you're saying is very true. We actually did stuff, as I said, that we would not have done before, or we would have found foolish. But even these town halls, we had been using, Zoom way before the pandemic. It was not a new thing for Bandsintown, because we have three main offices. One was in New York, Montreal, San Diego, and then we have an office in London, Paris, Berlin, and Tokyo. So this situation of being remote from each other, and we're only 65 people, so it's not like it has always been the case. We did try to do town halls, but at the office, town halls, if you mix different location within the same Zoom, let's say, but with most people sitting around the table in three different offices, it creates a very weird vibe. It's really not pleasant. People are not focused. They don't share with the other locations. Feels like almost mandatory. It was hopeful, to the point that we stopped. In fact, I was traveling from one office to the other to meet with the people, but we stopped trying to bring them within the same Zoom experience this way. And through the pandemic, we realized that everyone sitting in front of a computer was a much better format. And so that's what we kept. Even now that the office reopened, when we do our town hall, it is not people are not sitting in the meeting rooms. They are sitting on their desk in front of a computer, which creates a different type of vibe and communication, enables them to ask questions to the guests. So that learning is very intuitive, and it's all about UX in a way.
Yeah, it's user experience, and also just putting your feet into the shoes of the audience.
This way.
Yeah. You kind of have to adapt I mean, in some ways, you're adapting to the technology, which seems a little bit backwards, but the technology was required. And as a result, you kind of have to calibrate on both sides of the equation.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So to fast forward to now, we're getting lots of reports that live music and events are coming back stronger than ever. There's tons of live shows, lots of tickets available. some controversy about whether all the tickets are getting sold or not, if it's coming back too strong. But is it true? Is live music coming back stronger? I mean, you have such a vantage point, like maybe few other entities or leaders in the music industry, because you see across multiple ticketing platforms, multiple venues, multiple genres, multiple regions, and so forth. Is this just a market correction of concert demand after a long hiatus, or are you expecting a long-term return and strong live market for several years, or maybe a little bit of a yo-yo effect? What's happening on the macroeconomic view of live music?
Yes, and thank you for sharing. We indeed have a very unique viewpoint. It's global, it's cross-promoter, cross-ticketing companies, pretty much all artists. So there's a lot of learnings there. Yes, there's an unprecedented level of demand met by an unprecedented level of offer. Now, it varies per geography, and behaviors also are slightly different. So let me explain. In Europe right now, you have about 30% more shows available, upcoming shows available to the fans than what they had in 2019. So prior to the pandemic. I'm on purpose not talking about 2020
Right.
because it was
Nothing
already
happened.
messed up at this time of year. So now in the US, we just caught up. So we were trending slightly at a level of 10% less shows than in 2019. So that's the behavior of the fans is very different. So in the US, they are buying tickets and expensive tickets, more expensive tickets than they used to. They're eagerly buying tickets. So there's a level of trust in the US, which is much, much greater than it is in Europe, where the shows are not selling out as fast as they are in the US. Now, not all shows sell out. And that's also another learning. Obviously, it's not a controversy. I think that there is a reality. People, because there are more shows and more artists on tour, especially in certain markets, because my average is not necessarily giving like a, a precise picture of each market. So there are more shows, there's more competition, and yes, there are certain markets on which the smaller artists have more trouble selling out tickets. And there are also secondary markets, which are way more difficult to sell out than primary markets. When I say primary and secondary, I mean the main cities versus secondary cities. And I don't want to drop names to offend anybody, but let's say the most important cities are definitely easier to sell than less, like top markets.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. And do you think this will be a long-term, so this increase 30% in Europe, ticket sales of bigger artists in the US, and just overall a lot of concerts getting put on sale. Do you think this will be going on? I mean, there was this talk for a minute when the bookings first started to return, and it was hard to tell, was this hype from the ticketing companies or the promotion companies that, oh, we're about to see a renaissance of live music. It's going to be bigger and better than ever, which, might help to increase some confidence in buying some tickets at that moment. But economically, when you look at it from that perspective, is it going to be bigger than ever, or are we going to see a mix?
Definitely. This year is going to be bigger than ever. It is already. So in the first quarter, we helped move twice more tickets than we did in 2019 for the same period of time. So there's definitely things that, talk. As I said, it's a mix of quantity. The price levels definitely increased anyway. So there's a number of things which are pretty significant. Is it going to continue? I think so. I mean, put aside, obviously, everything being equal, right? Because we have so many challenges right now on the political side and international side, and unfortunately, that I don't want to. I mean, I have to talk about things being equal. Yes, there's a good reasons to believe that the trends will be strong, and 2023 will be very strong too. Because, well, first of all, not all artists have been able to go on tour. Some got locked out of the market just because they didn't announce a tour early enough, or they did not, and they didn't find the right venues, and they couldn't book the places they wanted to. So some artists had to do a leg here and then plan the next leg next year, right? So there's definitely a good reason to believe that 2023 will still continue to benefit from a content point of view from the backlog of the pandemic situation that the pandemic situations created. So for that reason, 2023 looks super solid in my opinion. Now, talk about the consumer demand. I feel that concert is a little bit counter-cyclical. So even if we went into a recession, what we saw in previous years was that people are willing to keep spending even at time when they are challenged economically, because that's one of those relatively cheap spend. I mean, it's not cheap to go to concert anymore, but still it's affordable versus other type of vacation and more expensive entertainment. So it's counter-cyclical. So even if we had to hit recession by the end of this year or next year, and also the economy slow down, I can see that it may not hit that much the market. And if there's the one thing that we really learned through the pandemic, and I'm sure all listeners and you and me would agree on that, is that concert and live music is definitely one of the last tribal experience. And we're missing it so much. And I had been saying this, of course, prior to the pandemic.
I remember that.
Yes, you can testify. But, and if anything, I this pandemic proved my case. I am sorry, because I wish it would have never been the case. But yes, the pandemic told everybody that we need these moments of communion. We need this moment of feeling alive. For me, being a fan is being alive, period. And I think everybody understood that very strongly.
As you were talking about the affordability of a concert and then saying, well, it's expensive, but it's not as expensive as other things, it made me think it's almost like a one-night vacation. It's a one-night escape, And maybe I'm saying that in a post-pandemic world where we need a moment. We just need a moment to transform and transport ourselves somewhere else as well. So There's the tribal experience, and then there's also just sort of like, I need a something that my whole body can experience, and take me away.
Exactly. Everybody felt that, regardless of how old you are, level of income. That's when we say that concert appeal to everybody, it's very true. You don't need to be particularly either have educated or not educated, whatever. Everybody feels it. That's what I call it, tribal. It is a human experience, but that's also what's so beautiful about it, because when it brings us together in the mosh pit, there's no income levels anymore. There's no gender, there's no race, there's nothing. We're just humans cheering for the same artist. We're just here to respect the act and essentially have fun together. But and this experience is what's so unique. And I think that people feel it because there are not so many instances when you truly in a way forget those barriers and you really truly admit that all humans are equal to a degree that is that yes, you can share some germs and be close in the mosh pit.
Really, really great takeaways from such a crazy experience we've had the past couple of years in this current context. We're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, Fabrice, let's talk about Bandsintown.
Yes, with pleasure.
Does your company belong at the center of the conversation about music, tech, and innovation? Listen, you should consider sponsoring the Music Tectonics Conference. It takes place in person October 25th through the 27th, 2022, in the Music Tech Hub of Los Angeles. Top-tier sponsorships are selling fast, but we still have a spot for you, whether your business is a hungry startup or an industry leader already. Every sponsorship level comes with an exhibitor booth at the Lowe's Santa Monica Beach Hotel on October 26th, the main conference hub for keynotes and panels. Your company will be at this epicenter of music, tech, and innovation throughout the event. That's just one perk of being a sponsor at Music Tectonics. You could be a guest on this podcast or even play a role in conference programming. Interested? Let's talk. Go to musictectonics.com to start the conversation with our contact form. And now, back to the show.
Okay, we are back, and we talked a lot about kind of like the learnings from the pandemic experience in the live industry, but we haven't really talked that much about Bandsintown yet, the company that you run. What are emerging features, offerings, partnerships that the industry should know about?
Well, there's a lot of activity since the pandemic ended, and indeed, there's definitely more interest for live music than there was for 2 years. We announced a number of integrations. One was this link in bio company called Linktree, which enables artists to really connect essentially their Bandsintown account and their Linktree account and display tour dates and facilitate the sales of tickets right from this link in bio applications. And it's an incredible company. They're very pro artist. I think actually they're very very focused on helping all artists, and not only the artists but also other type of creators. But I like the way they approach the market by being very generous to the artist community.
That's cool.
And that we also announced that if artists list their tour dates on Bandsintown, they're going to get them surfaced on within the Shazam ecosystem. And, that's really cool. If you Shazam a song, usually it returns the name of the song and the link to the DSP or to Apple Music generally, or the DSP that you're using. But now you will also get the closest tour dates, the offer to buy a ticket for the show if there's a show happening near where you live.
Fabrice, I love how those two examples, they're really different applications, because Shazam obviously is using this listening technology to surface the song, but then in the process of giving the user what they quote, what they want from listening by saying, oh, well, who is this? It's concert discovery right within that experience. Then they don't have to go off to some other service to find out where the concerts are. But then the flip side with the Linktree example, it's a similar concert discovery thing. It's like syndicated concert information at the artist level. Makes it easier for the artist. I'm assuming that's who's using Linktree in this case, giving them a kind of like a widget or an opportunity to purchase tickets without having to go any further than the splash page that Linktree has to offer. And so they're really very different workflows or listener flows or discovery flows, but it's that syndication that Bandsintown is just nailed so perfectly and interestingly in so many different ways over the years. And it's cool to see you continuing. One of the things those link aggregation services, I guess you could call them, are doing that's interesting is, music is in so many different places. People might want to go to different places to listen to the music or read the bio and so forth. And it's like pulling it all back together. And it's so interesting to think about how Bandsintown has kind of like continued to syndicate concerts everywhere people are.
Yeah, well, we're on a mission to help the artist, right? And to help artists grow a sustainable future. That's what I called. So surfacing tour dates in different ecosystem is absolutely core to this mission. There's nothing that, everybody can understand that. Obviously, we like when it's being surfaced in the context of a great use case. Like, for example, we do have an agreement with Alexa and Amazon's Alexa. And that's cool too, because you can ask Alexa who's playing tonight, and Alexa should be able to answer this question using our informations. We also try to help artists save time. So if they list their tour dates on Bandsintown, they need to know that essentially it's a one-stop shop. They do it once, we take care of the rest. That's another, and we do have agreements, with other platforms that are taking advantage of it. So that's, we're trying to expand this type of agreements just because we feel that it really helps artists being discovered.
Yeah, awesome. You know what? I want to ask you about one other thing that I think got launched very recently, which is the fan management suite. I haven't really dug into what that is. Can you explain it to me?
Sure. So the Bandsintown for Artists platform historically had been serving the artists by helping them list their tour dates. We just discussed it. And more recently, over the last few years, we introduced this idea of being able to post a short message to the fans, and we guarantee that this message, these messages are getting displayed within the app. Fans get push notifications, and also fans receive emails with the content of that message. We realized we got really lots of traction with this new feature. It was a few years ago. And we realized how important the direct communication between the artist and the fans is. And during the pandemic, we expanded this functionality. We improved it because we thought that during the pandemic, obviously, it was key to give to the artist, the greatest opportunity to stay in touch with their fans, right? And to publish their music, release their music, using the Bandsintown messaging system, they can promote anything. They can promote merch, they can promote tour, they can promote music. That being said, we can also realize that such artists, even though we grant them access to their followers and we let them message these followers through our platform, these artists may also want to build their own opt-ins and their own first-party data. And we think there's no sustainable future for artists which don't own their first-party data. I feel that, with Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, sometimes being very difficult to deal with, sometimes asking artists to pay to reach their own targets, sometimes, displaying only a few % of the messages to the fans. It is not reliable as a communication channels with the super fans. So we thought that it was relevant to expand our mission and to offer artists a way to acquire first-party data. So tools that they can put on their websites, socials, and these tools enable them essentially to acquire emails and phone numbers from the fans. And then using Bandsintown for Artists as a way to manage this first-party data. So we launched, there's a new tab in Bandsintown for Artists called Fan Manager, which within one dashboard helps artists manage their follower on Bandsintown, which as a reminder is they can reach directly without paying, and also their own opt-ins and phone number. And now we are testing, and of course, any listener reaching out could get into this test. We're testing a new functionality which goes even a step further, which is a free email platform. So once you acquire and build an audience, you can manage your fans, engage them. You get lots of insights, by the way. But last but not least, we now offer a way to email them for free, which means that you can even upload the existing contacts you may have and use Bandsintown as a full communication platform with the fans and essentially send the same message to your follower on Bandsintown and to the emails that you may have acquired through different other channels. So we call it the Fan Relationship Management Suite because indeed it provides a free CRM platform to the artists and their managers. Fairly powerful with an audience built in because we obviously provide and let the artists message their followers for free from the same platform.
Sounds amazing. It sounds very forward thinking. And it's funny because email is not the newest, latest thing, but the idea of building those relationships has been taken away from a lot of platforms. And so it's almost like philosophically forward thinking in terms of like, well, what do we have to lose from like reconstructing those relationships rather than continuing to be a, like other tech companies that are creating a barrier.
In France, you say that to make a good soup, you have to use an old pan.
Oh yeah.
Like whole pot.
Yeah.
So, and I think that emails is, yes, maybe a technology that is relatively old, but there's nothing better than emails to do a merch drop, to do an NFT drop, to announce music, to do a music release or something special like pre-sale, and anything that you want to find that you want to sell to the fans, and certainly to the super fans, go through emails. And I don't think it's going to go anywhere because, mobile phones are the ideal platforms, obviously, to check emails and use emails. We also offer, by the way, SMS and offer the artists to capture phone numbers. But I'm a strong believer that, and we also offer, by the way, artists to add their pixels to capture first-party data using our tools. So between pixels, emails, and phone numbers, we give artists the entire range of marketing tools that they need to engage directly with their fans.
All right, we're going to take another quick break. And when we come back, I want to ask you about some emerging use cases, some interesting stories about specific artists or tours that are using the tools. These tools, maybe other tools from Bandsintown. We will be right back. Whoa, the ideas are flying fast on this episode. If you want to follow up on anything we're talking about today, we've made it easy. Head over to musictectonics.com and find this episode on the podcast page. You'll see show notes full of links and a time-stamped roadmap of the conversation. We're not responsible for internet rabbit holes you tumble down in the process. Now, let's get back to the conversation. Okay, we're back. So Fabrice, have you seen any new emerging use cases of Bandsintown's tools? Can you share some maybe specific artists or tours that have been creative and effective with their use of Bandsintown?
Well, there are lots of artists using Bandsintown for different use cases. And in fact, we love the way and when they surprise us. But technically, so with this new email platform that we just discussed, we facilitate the promotion of merch drops. When I say that, music release. So for music release, you can literally drag and drop your music links into an email. For the tour promotion, because we have obviously the data, you can also literally drag and drop your tour and the ticket links into your email. So this sounds fairly classic as a way to promote an artist, but I meant to say it because it's still quite of a challenge to build a strategy, a direct strategy like that, and so we see beautiful artists doing this. Now, yes, we also see artists promoting NFT drops. That happens all the time now. They understand that Bandsintown are usually caters to the super fans, and that obviously these NFT fans that are the super fans are usually NFT fans as well, because they're interested in being a super fan. And how do you qualify for being a super fan as well? Because you always do more for the artist than your friends. And you can claim you're a better fan or a super fan because you went a step further. So having an NFT is a good way to show fandom, and I think a lot of acts understood that. Now we had also more recently a lot of situation when artists are doing like private live streams and different type of shows that they want to reserve to a certain group of fans. And that's another way to engage with fans, right? That's probably one of the benefits of the pandemic, getting back to live streams. More and more artists are definitely doing, some sort of a meet and greet and private live shows using live streams. And we promote a ton of these live streams. The platform is specifically tailored to feature live streams. It specifically notifies fans 15 minutes before the show, which is really critical to essentially drive engagement. and that's a feature that we developed during the pandemic, but that is still very much used by the artists.
Gotcha. Cool. So now this is the fun part. We have a feature on the show where we ask guests to get super sci-fi. What are the crazy ideas you expect to see in music tech in the next 5 to 10 years? I shouldn't even say music tech, music innovation in the music space. What futuristic stuff? I mean, we've already talked about NFTs, but what futuristic stuff gets you excited?
I'm very excited by Web3 in general, and it goes way beyond NFTs. In fact, I think NFTs are the tip of the iceberg. I'm fascinated by this, I think, very deep trend that will transform the world, not only music, but also the world of music. It's a state of mind, right? It's really a state of mind that is going to change the world. This state of mind is that decisions are made collectively, that there is the power is back to the people who are involved. And if you apply that to music, you understand that the people who are involved are the fans. And so there's a lot of opportunities to get the fans even more engaged in the artist career, where they might be able to invest in an artist. They might be able to invest in tours. And there's a lot of opportunities to, even for the fans, to simply collect a unique piece of art from the artist, which is what we see with NFTs today, but might be more sophisticated, tomorrow. So all of this are open opportunities to see, and then like something that we never saw before, that may have been dreamt of at the beginning of the internet, what they call the Web 1, and that never got realized because of the development of the Web 2. The Web 2 literally killed the dream of Web 1, and now we're back to dreaming. And I love this type of era. I think we're back to dreaming. Now, at some point, dream and reality have to align. But if you dream big, the reality should be greater. So the fantasy I have is to see fans support a tour prior to its announcement, or fans getting privilege because they are part of some sort of a virtual fandom that it's probably because they bought an NFT, and get access to an artist private lounge in the metaverse. If you use these tools like the Oculus and all these available tools, actually, it gives you a good sense of what it can be. But there's a lot of work to do, and we are really, really just at the beginning.
I like that you think about it in terms of what the final end experience is, as opposed to getting too caught up in the technical details. Because we're at this moment where, some of the tech isn't quite there yet, honestly, or at least the accessibility and the usability of it is not quite there yet. But I also like that even though we're in this funny early stage of bubbles and dips in this new technology, you really see it as the spirit of creativity. That's really what you emphasize, was this opportunity for the music industry to think in new ways instead of following formulas that have worked in the past.
Yeah, I feel that the challenge is always the UX and the way you deal with consumers. I don't want to undermine the greatness and the complexity of these technologies. And I acknowledge indeed that some of them are not fully available and finished. But even if they were, this challenge would still be great on the product side to deliver an amazing product to consumers and to use these technologies appropriately. So I'm telling the audience and that there's no limit to technology. Don't worry. There's hopefully no limit to dreams. The question is how you connect the two. Is like, how do you use technology to make a great product that is functional, easy to use, easy to understand, not too expensive for the fans. I remember when Apple launched its first iPhone, it didn't they didn't call it iPhone, in partnership with Motorola. It was a disaster. Maybe nobody listening
I didn't know about
remembers.
that.
It was a disaster. It has nothing to do in terms of form factor with an iPhone. It was a partnership between Apple and Motorola, and at the end of the day, it was a Motorola phone. Nothing, no pun intended, but still, it was not an iPhone. So to do a great product, it takes a lot of imagination and time and refinement, and I think that what Web3 today bears is a lot of promises, and I think the technology is there, but there's so much work to do in terms of applications and the way you deliver it to consumers.
Yeah, gotcha. So you've been so generous, even though the live music scene is exploding, you've taken a lot of time away from your day-to-day to talk to us. Before I let you go, Fabrice, we love to tap our guests for recommendations to help them on their music innovation paths. Are there any final shout outs you'd like to make? Any cool companies you've seen, books you're reading, tech that you're keeping an eye out that we haven't talked about? This is a chance before we wrap it up.
Well, I think that I'm very. I want to shout out to my friend John V, who was running music at Roblox. Mm-hmm. His impact on the entire ecosystem is quite significant. He managed to prototype and not more than that, put on stage artists in the virtual world at a scale that nobody else did it before, and that and I think it's always helpful if you want to see success stories that are happening at scale in a complete different paradigm, because it's inspiration for entire generation, and for it's important for people to visualize what this can be or can become. And he was definitely the pioneer in this, and I'm super. I know he's transitioning, but yeah, that's my shout out for today.
Awesome. John V is awesome. And I agree. We've had him on the podcast and at Music Tectonics events. I mean, he's a dad. I'm a dad. Anyone who has kids who are on Roblox know that he has had an impact. I can talk to John on a podcast, and then I can talk to my kid who's on Roblox and find out similar information. My child was starting to give me updates about anything going on Roblox related to music, activations, controversies, everything. So yeah. That's a great shout out. I appreciate that. So Fabrice, if anyone wants to connect with you in Bandsintown, what should they do? What's the link or the contact?
Well, they should. It's absolutely okay to contact me, Fabrice at bandsintown.com. I always like direct access, and then if there's a support question or like more technical questions, we have support at Bandsintown for sure, for the artist or for the fans.
Awesome. This has been a blast to have you back on the podcast. I hope I get to see you at a show sometime.
I'd love to, Dmitri. Thank you very much for everything you do and for this great podcast. I appreciate you, and I appreciate you having me today.
Thank you. Be safe. Thanks for listening to Music Tectonics. If you like what you hear, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app. We have new episodes for you every week. Did you know you can dig deeper into all our episodes with the show notes at musictectonics.com. While you're there, look for the latest about our annual conference, sign up for our newsletter to get updates, or get the Music Tectonics app for music tech news. Everything we do explores seismic shifts that shake up music and technology the way the Earth's tectonic plates cause quakes and make mountains. Connect with Music Tectonics on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and find me, Dmitri Vietze, if you can spell it, on LinkedIn. Bye-bye.
You're listening to Music Tectonics.